Welcome. I don't know. Do I just start talking? Am I waiting for people to get on and talking? Hey, this is Jonathan. My name is Jonathan Pitts, and I'm sitting here with my cousins, who I'll introduce in a second here. But just want to say welcome, and just want to say that I'm glad to be here with you. And although it's kind of difficult why we're here, I'm just really excited to share these next few moments with you and my family and Wynter's family. If you don't know who I am, which you probably don't, my name is Jonathan Pitts again, and I married Wynter Danielle Evans in 2003, and she was the love of my life for 15 years, and we had 4 beautiful girls together. And about halfway into that marriage, not only we had 4 beautiful girls together, but Wynter began creating resources for our girls, and just continued to develop resources for our girls that became resources for the world and for girls in probably your families and other families. And I don't know, the screen's turning here, so hopefully we're good. But anyway, just want to welcome you out, and just a couple things I wanted to share. First of all, I married Wynter in 2003. We had our 4 girls. Ministry started to go, and it just began to just grow and develop. And Wynter built a brand of ministry, and for girls like you, that was really bigger than her life. Like, she passed away in July 24th of 2018, about 6 months ago, a little over 6 months ago. And it's been the hardest 6 months of my life. But the paradox between the sorrow that I felt and the joy that I've felt at the same time, seeing God at work and seeing God just continuing to use her life and use her ministry, has been like nothing I've ever known. And God's been really good to me. And I'm going to cry, and I wasn't going to cry, but anyway, God's been really good to me and my family. And we're here today. Wynter's birthday was January 29th. She would have been 39 years old. And my 12-year-old girl, Caitlin, reminded me that she's 1 year old in heaven, or that she turned 39 in heaven, so she celebrated her first year in heaven. So we're really kind of celebrating her life, celebrating her legacy of just being an incredible mom, and being an incredible visionary, I guess I'd call her, in terms of ministry and mission. And I'm really proud of who she was and what she became. I'm proud to be associated with her. Grateful for what God gave me in her. So I'm grateful. So now I'm going to just introduce. So what's really neat about this story, what's really neat is we married in 2003, but we moved to Dallas in 2005, kind of on a whim. Our family thought we were crazy, except the family that we were coming to. They're the people sitting on this couch. So Wynter had a bunch of cousins, but 4 amazing cousins in Dallas, and I'm sitting with all of them. Jonathan Evans, right here. We call him Baby John. Chrystal, the oldest of her. So these are all Tony Evans' kids, which you probably already know. Wynter's uncle, her dad's brother. So Jonathan's the baby, then Chrystal is the oldest, then Chrystal Hurst, Priscilla Shirer, who is right under Chrystal, and then Anthony Evans Jr. And hello. So anyway, they've over the last.
I feel like you have to say that a little slower, because we get this question all the time.
Yeah, help me out.
Dad is Tony Evans. He's our dad.
Yeah.
And then Wynter's dad.
Yeah.
Is brothers with our dad. Did I say that right?
That's right.
Okay, so they're brothers, and then all of us are cousins. Because people ask all the time, what's the connection and how exactly it works? So.
Yeah. So we moved here in 2005, and one of the beautiful things is we've literally raised our kids with them as they've raised their kids. We all had babies when we moved here, and all of our kids have been growing. We've all got teenagers now.
I didn't have babies.
Anthony didn't have babies, but he's a surrogate father to all of our kids.
That's right.
Straight
That's
up.
right.
So
best uncle in the world.
Best uncle in the world. So, and then John actually had the youngest baby in the family right now, and the baby's name is Jade Wynter. And was born on winter solstice.
Born on the first day of winter solstice. Yeah. God did that on purpose. That's his thing.
And it was a girl. You didn't know it was going to be a girl.
I didn't know. We never find out what we're having. So everybody's waiting. And Jonathan already told me the baby's going to be born on December 21st because that's the first day of winter. It's going to be a girl, and you're going to name her Wynter. I was like, yes, sir.
Are you serious, John?
I don't know if it went all the way like that, but kind of.
You already knew, yeah.
I knew the baby was going to be born on the first day of winter. I was like, that baby's born on the first day.
Which was the day that they scheduled to be here.
Yeah, we were
prior to even knowing, and they just already had scheduled that.
Yeah.
And then the baby came out and it's a girl, and you said, "Oh, it's little Wynter, and then we named her Jade Wynter Evans. I always want to say Pitts.
Yeah. But why did I had a bitter moment. I'm like, why did they give her first name Wynter? And then I was like, I can't.
You're like, he wanted us to name. Okay, so the first name was supposed to be Wynter. But we wanted to honor Wynter while also honoring Wynter's daughters.
Yeah.
So that her daughters would have the opportunity to give that first name to their daughter.
Yeah.
They wanted to do that.
So if you're just joining us, I'm Jonathan Pitts. These are all the Evans kids, Wynter's first cousins.
So other people can see.
Oh, and share it. If you want to share it. If you're on Facebook Live, we'd love for you to share it. If you're on Instagram Live, I don't know if you can you share from Instagram Live?
But they can share.
I don't know. We can.
Anyway, they're sharing right now.
Yeah.
We're here. We're celebrating Wynter's 39th birthday, which was actually last week on January 29th. We're celebrating.
Happy
birthday,
Wynn. We went out, the girls in the family went out to Cracker Barrel to celebrate
I know.
her birthday.
That's right.
Because she would have wanted us to have biscuits and pancakes.
Yeah, well, I'm glad y'all went to Cracker Barrel because I went to Cane Prime in Nashville, which is a great steakhouse with my girl. We went a little higher class than Cracker Barrel. Anyway, if you're joining us, I want to welcome you out. We're celebrating Wynter's birthday. We're celebrating her life and her ministry for girls like you, and actually just going to share a little bit about the next chapter. What for girls like you is going to continue to do, but also what it's going to grow into based on Wynter's vision. But as we do that, one of the ways I wanted to do it is start with just a question for her cousins, who honestly like. Wynter would consider Priscilla and Chrystal her best friends. Like she did life with them all the time. They just knock on our door,
And
Kanika, his wife Kanika, best friends. But they would just knock on her door, and Wynter was. You'll probably tell a story. about
Andrea.
it. Wynter was just kind of annoyed enough to not answer and then answer, but she loved her cousins, and then they go to movies together. They had a life. Y'all can describe it, but
Yeah, 'cause
anyway.
I would call her
Andrea.
and she wouldn't answer, so I would just go over and be like, "I know you're in there.
Right.
Come
And
into the door."
we'd happen to live like a couple houses down from their dad, so it just made it all the easier these last couple of years. But I want to ask each of you guys. What are you trying to say, Anthony? What are you thinking?
Nothing. No, just being
We're
Funny,
just
yeah.
giggling,
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
thinking
I
about.
thought you had something. But anyway, one question for you guys. The question is, what did you love about Wynter, and how does that live on? Let's start. Who wants to start?
I can start.
Yeah, what do you
I'm
love
on
about
this
Wynter, and how does that
side.
live on?
First of all, big shout out to Sean, Wynter's brother.
Yeah.
Sean
We
Manoa.
love you. He's here in Dallas with us as well.
I stayed at his house last night.
Yeah, with Drea, and so we love all of you. Ryan, Blake, Paige, love you. But Wynter, for me, we had a big sister, little brother relationship. I mean, everything from me walking into her house and she being like, "What are you doing here?" You know, to you know, when we were young, I took her to Jurassic Park and she was cuddled up under me as we were in the movies by ourselves. Because she was scared of the dinosaurs. And so we just hung out. We had a great brother-sister relationship. I remember one time I pulled her braid and I was like, "Does that hurt?" And she was like, "Psh, does that hurt?" You know, so we had a great, but she was always inviting. Whenever I showed up to like the Pine Cove house and she was already there first, she would say, John. You know, like, that's my little brother right there. And so that's what's going to live on, is just that realness. Because that realness comes through in all of her work. That realness comes through in how she parented. That realness came through in how she was a wife. And so it was just real person, family, real family. And so that's what's going to live on, is people are going to experience realness when they experience the things that she produced, because she was just real.
Yeah, I would say, because I'll just jump in and say what I really loved about Wynter. I mean, obviously I loved her a lot. She was my wife. 15 years in 1 month. I'm so grateful that God allowed us to get to 15 years as opposed to 14 years and 10 months or 11 months or whatever.
Yeah.
But what I really love about her, and I didn't know who the Evanses were. I didn't know that world. So I just met this girl in Philadelphia in college that was just your regular girl, and she was super simple. There was nothing complicated about her. Like, what you saw was what you got. She'd say what she meant. She'd say what she thought. I mean, she was just really normal. So I think that translated in some ways, and actually me not necessarily this is going to make me look bad, but not necessarily thinking that I would never thought the vision that God had for her life, and I would have never thought that what God was doing in her life would be as grand as what He had created, and that just speaks to my immaturity, I think. But at the same time, like, when I watched what God was doing in her life and her ministry and how she blossomed, it just makes me really grateful to have been a part of it. And was a reminder that it doesn't matter who the girl is, that God can do amazing things through her if she's just obedient to Him. And so I'm really grateful for that, and I'll always be just grateful for that. Are we looking at this camera now? Is that what we're saying? Okay, so that's what I loved about Wynter. I mean, just regular girl, and so yeah, I'll probably say more because I feel like I should. But anybody else, Chrystal, you want to share? Or?
Yeah, I think what you said about simplicity, Wynter just, because she just wasn't going to put forth more energy than required for anything that wasn't important, she could just see really clearly to what was important. So I would call her a lot and say, okay, so listen, I just need to go into a quick crystalism. Just let me do the thing. And she could just pierce through really quickly with a high amount of clarity to what was really important, and made things simple. And you've heard me talk about just her attitude about rest. It was just, she did a lot, but always from a place of rest. So now when you ask what's important and, kind of how that connects to me right now, she is in my head all the time about, is this important? Are you doing too much? And so that's kind of it. I mean, she just had a great, just led by example in a great way, in that way. And then made me feel like I was just wise. Like even you called me a few weeks after her passing and you had a question for me. You're like, you just have wisdom. That's what you do. And I was like, I do? But she would say that to me. And she would say, hey, you just kind of, you've got some years on you. You're a little bit ahead with your child rearing. So, what do you think? It kind of helped me to see myself in a position I don't really think I saw before that.
Well, Chrystal does have wisdom because I was voxing her last night about what to do about a parenting thing. So I appreciate her still for that. And now Wynter's not calling her, I am. So, Priscilla?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say pretty much the same thing, that Wynter was always interested in refueling herself. She cared about herself. Not at the expense of the other things that were important to her, but she wasn't going to do them at the expense of what mattered to her. Yeah. Whether it was her family or whether it was just self-care, like I really need a nap, I'm going to take a nap. Yeah. And so again, we are all marveling at, it seems like the more she just yielded to the Lord and what he had for her and wanted for her, it's like God just fast-tracked the ministry that he wanted to produce through her life before she went to meet him face to face. And so those 10, how do you write 10 books in 4 years? Who does that? Nobody. How do you produce a magazine over and over and over again that is excellent in quality, that reaches thousands of people, that has all these subscribers, and you don't have some big machine behind you pushing
while
that?
You're publishing the book.
While you're publishing the books at the same time and raising 4 girls. And yet you still have time for a nap. Like she would, I'm serious.
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's like she prioritized, no, actually this is what I need and I'm not going to let that wane. And like Chrystal said, she's in my voice now. She and I had similar personalities in that way, that we just sort of are like, it'll be okay. But I'm a notch higher, where I'll get going on something, and sometimes at the expense of things that are just the simple pleasures of life, that I can hear Wynter saying, but what do you want to do? Just do what you want to do. Do you need to sleep right now? Well, let's sleep. Are we going to the movies? Let's go to the movies. I mean, the dishes will be there when we get back. Let's go to the movies. And so I hear that in my head, that pull towards the simple pleasures of life that really do give you the fuel you need to be productive in all the other areas of your life. So I miss that. I miss that in my friend, that constant friend that's always like, let's go do the thing, and we'll write again tomorrow. And while we're writing, by the way, let's sit here and enjoy the coffee we like while we're writing.
Fuzzy socks.
Let's get our fuzzy socks on. Let's get under some blankets. I mean, if we're going to do it, we might as well do it in a way that is super enjoyable for us all along the way. Yeah. So I appreciated her continued emphasis on self-care.
Yeah, it's actually a lesson I've been learning because, she passed on July 24th. And from that moment on, I didn't know whether I would, because we were in a transition from Dallas to Nashville. And I'm like, I don't know, does that need to stop? I started questioning everything. But the one thing I never questioned was, does her ministry need to live on, and will it live on? And I was like, nope, that's happening. Like, I'm on it. Like, I'm doing it. And so for the last 6 months, and my energy is, I'm up. When Wynter's down here, I'm up here. So I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? Who needs to be on the team? How do we act? I'm doing all that. And I've heard her pretty much every day be like, Jonathan, like, slow down.
That's
relax.
totally her.
Like, what are you doing? You're doing too much. Like, all that, So, yeah, so I'm still learning it, and she's still speaking that to me all the time, and I'm still failing. She's, we're built different. I'm not built like she is, but like she was.
And you were the perfect complements to each other in that regard. I love how the Lord does that. He takes these puzzle pieces, weaknesses and strengths on both sides, and he fits them together. Yeah. And you guys did that beautifully, because you'd put a fire under her when she actually needed one.
Yes,
when like there was a deadline coming, and you were like, actually, you've written nothing, and there's a deadline.
Because she would actually say, girl, I gotta go because I had to write these chapters because Jonathan's gonna ask me.
So
exactly,
that's great.
My favorite thing has it's all this, but also it's kind of like a little thing with me and Wynter. She would call me and we would tag team Jonathan if she needed him to go do something or believe in something bigger or purchase a couch. That's my favorite thing. She'd be like, Anthony, okay, we need to convince Jonathan that we need to get this couch. Okay, so just help me get this. So that has nothing to do with, all these things are beautiful.
Yeah, that's great,
but that's my favorite thing is when we would go on a vacation and the whole trip we'd be talking about how we're going to convince Jonathan to let us go spend money and do something.
Well, you were part of the house purchase too, weren't you? Weren't you just like, buy it?
Our last 3 houses, Anthony's been a part of.
Just do it.
Buy it.
You can afford to do it.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't reckless. It was thought out. But
Well, and
just believe that.
I'm super conservative.
Yes.
Anthony's
Not.
believes in abundance. Let's say.
That's a great way of saying it.
I believe in believing in what you're capable of, and I saw what Wynter,
That sounds spiritual.
what both of y'all were capable of, even when the books first started.
Yeah.
Because Jonathan.
I believe in scarcity. I'm like, it's going away.
He's like, this is never gonna work. That's just,
But the problem
I would
is-
be like, it's going to work, whether it's the book thing or the house thing or whatever. So I love that dynamic of
That's great.
yeah.
And what a lot of you don't know about us, and normally, like, I'd be on the other side of these cameras because I've supported all of them in some way, but I worked directly for Anthony for 7 years in his music career. So we built like a friendship over, I don't know, 15 years, almost 15 years now. And so I've worked with each of them as a part of working with Anthony, and then we worked together when I worked for their dad, running the Urban Alternative, his national ministry. So.
And Wynter helped me, remember?
Oh yeah, she did help.
She
you.
did
helped me
speaking
too.
engagements and
You know
those
what?
things
She was
together.
helping him like, I'm not trying to help this dude.
I
What am I doing? Just packing boxes.
I was easy though. I was easy.
Yeah, you're very.
That's what she
Brenda
told
was
me because she let me go first. I said, but you didn't let Jonathan go. She said, because he ain't doing all that you doing. You got too much going on. He's easy.
Wait, but I want to
Return
just
calls.
pause really quick right there because Pitts talked about working with me, and so I'll just segue into that just for a second. So if Wynter were not our cousin, if we were not related, and Jonathan Pitts had just worked with me for 7 years, I would still be sitting here because of my belief in him
Yes.
as a human being. Like my whole ministry, I've said this before one other time in public. My whole ministry is built on his faithfulness to the heart of people, not just building ministries and making sure numbers are right and all that stuff. He is about the heart of people. So that's my belief in Jonathan. And then on top of that, the family dynamic makes it huge. But I would be sitting here, if Wynter were not our cousin, I'd be sitting here with you because of my belief in you. And I just have to let everybody know that there's it's multi-layered
True.
here.
It's
because
true.
of who
You're a
you-
beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all feel that same way in the
Yeah.
sense that it feels like such a gift to us that Wynter gave us you.
Listen.
And when I look at my, now I'm going to cry, but when I look at my little nieces, those 4 girls, what a gift that Wynter gave her daughters, you. I mean, you are our brother, you are our family. And so it just like Anthony said, even if we weren't connected via family, we'd still be here because you are spectacular in every way.
It's the same thing that Sean said. Sean said at the funeral. He
Sean
said,
is Wynter's brother.
Sean's Wynter's brother, and I just remember him saying, "People say, well, now you're the only one because you lost your only child
Yeah.
because you lost your one sibling," and he says, "No, I'm not because I gained a brother." And
Yeah.
that's
You're a brother for sure.
brother for sure.
That's why I'm glad just to be sitting with y'all because I feel the same way. Like, and the fact that we're still connected, like we did Christmas with them and our kids did Christmas together, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do life together. But I'm grateful to have like done life with them, like very deeply, but also to have worked in all of their ministries at some level and been a part of all the stuff they're doing. But I do want to share a little bit about what's next because one of the beautiful things about Wynter and in her simplicity, I don't even know how she did it, but God allowed her God gave her a vision for a ministry for girls. I remember looking back at a Facebook video she did in 2011 when she was starting for Girls Like You. And at that point, she had literally borrowed a laptop, downloaded the free version of Adobe Design, and started creating something. And I'm like, what is this girl doing? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. And she just felt like she needed to create compelling content for girls that was both entertaining but also Christ-centered, God-honoring, however you want to say it. She just felt like the content that was out there for her then 7-year-old, our daughter Alina, that it was either too mature, like in terms of content, or too baby. And there was nothing in between for tween girls. So she started to create this resource, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, what is she doing? Like, I was trying to get her to do hair because she could make a couple extra $100 a week doing hair.
She was good at doing hair.
Good at doing
She
hair.
literally quit. She quit her job. She was a grant writer. Quit her job to come home because she felt like she was supposed to be home with our girls. So she did that, and God was just asking her to engage with her girls. I'll never forget it. Psalms 37:5. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. And so she started to delight herself in the girls. And God gave her desires, which were to write. She always wanted to write. When I married her, she said, I want to write a book. And I'm like, write a book about what? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, figure that out first, you know. And but what was beautiful is because she didn't have that figured out, she allowed God just to speak into her what he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's what she began to do. So she started with a borrowed laptop and a trial version of Adobe InDesign, did that with 2 more laptops, 2 more trial versions. Don't tell Adobe because she probably was cheating the system. But anyway, that worked itself into being a full-fledged ministry that she was doing on her own. Like, we'd never hired anybody. It was Wynter designing, laying it out, producing it, working with the printer, all that. And then other resources she was developing as well. And just she continued to do it day after day, faithfully, saying no to other stuff. And God just blessed that. And so when she passed, like, I knew that needed to go on. The brand had grown bigger than her in the sense that it was God's vision, it was God's mission. She was doing it and she built it. But what's neat about Wynter is she would never want to engage in what was next in terms of like beyond the creation. She didn't care about distribute. Not that she didn't care, but she didn't want to be involved in distribution. Knew it wasn't her call. She didn't want to be involved in marketing. Knew it wasn't her call. She didn't want to be involved in like anything that was behind the scenes. That wasn't her. Like, she was a creator. So it's like God birthed in her the desire to create. She created what was hers to create. Set up the foundation of this ministry. And then she moved on. Like, she accomplished. Dr. Evans always says, Acts 13 says that David
served the purpose.
David served the purposes of God in his generation, and then he fell asleep. And the reality is, we all have a purpose that God's given us, and then we're going to fall asleep one day. And Wynter fell asleep having accomplished the work that God gave her to do.
Yeah.
So that makes me grateful. But what I feel like and what I'm convicted of is that her ministry needs to go on, and that the brand is grown. There's so much opportunity for the ministry, so many partners, so many girls out there already that are being blessed by the content, and that she set up the philosophy, and now we're continuing that philosophy. It's simple, it's relevant, it's beautiful, it's appreciating beauty and design in a way that a lot of ministries forgot about. And so, not to say anything bad about any other ministries, but the reality is that there's a specific way that she's done ministry and that she's created the ministry to work that we all now know, and we're going to continue. And in the last 6 months, God has set people around me, put people around me. A lot of them are right behind this camera right now that have been working in the ministry to help it go on and help it grow. And the reason I know that it needs to go on is because in the last 6 months, her ministry in terms of subscribers has tripled. And God's just blessing and just increasing what she's doing. And then he's sending me a team to work on it. So we're here today just to talk about the fact that that's going to go on. It needs to go on, and we need your help. Because the only way it goes on, like, publishing is an interesting thing, especially magazines. It's a very niche thing, but it's not really profitable. What I always joke about is that for girls like you, it's always been a for-profit, nonprofit. Like, Wynter never made a dime on this ministry. It wasn't something, it was all passion. So she was doing it, investing in it, just to simply just make sure that it keeps going on, not because she was making a bunch of money doing it. So what we've decided to do is turn it into a nonprofit. That way we can continue to support and push forward the work that God has birthed in the ministry through Wynter. And so we're asking for you to join us in that effort. If you go to forgirlslikeyou.com /next chapter, which I think should be linked on all these different ways you're watching, you can find out more about that, how you can get involved just from subscribing to our newsletter, or you can actually give today at that place as well. But just wanted to share that. We're really excited about it. I believe in it. That's all I've ever done, actually. Well, not all, but most of what I've done over the last 15 years is work in the backgrounds of ministry and keep ministry flourishing. So God's even created me and built me in a way where I can continue this on and kind of manage all those pieces and be a part of that. And I have 4 girls, so I'm still really passionate about this work. So anybody else want to say anything?
No, I mean, I just think, one thing that I can't do that Wynter did great is I have 3 girls, but outside
he's got 5 kids.
I've got 5 kids, so we're rolling. We're in the middle of the woods with no navigation. So I've got 3 girls, but just being able to impact on a large scale and bless girls, and girls be a focus.
Yeah.
Especially in our culture today, just girls being a focus and helping them to realize that God wants to do big things in their lives too.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people, don't know how to do that, but now you do, because you can be a part of someone that God has specifically blessed to do that, and giving is just as important as what is going to be achieved through Wynter's ministry, because that's how it's been turned into. Because it was for profit with the subscribers, now it's nonprofit, which allows you to be a part of something that you originally couldn't be a part of if you don't have daughters or you don't know how to bless girls like that. So now it opens the door for everybody to be a blessing.
Yeah, one more thing I'll say about that. So we'll still have subscribers. You can still subscribe just like you would have before as a mom of a girl. But 3 things that Wynter always wanted to do. One was publish, and she did that through the magazine. We're going to continue to publish the magazine, but we're also going to publish other resources for girls and their parents. The second thing that Wynter always wanted to do, and she talked a lot to Anthony about this, was events, like girls' events, because her desire was to show girls that regular girls could do big things for God. So, like, she's an example of that. These girls are an example of that. Our daughter, Alina, who was in War Room, is an example of that. Like, she was a regular little girl. Wynter had started this magazine, and all of a sudden, Alina lands this part in this movie. And she's a regular girl doing big things for God. So we want to produce events that will allow girls to see regular girls doing big things for God.
I think another, can I interject too?
Sure.
I think another aspect about the ministry that I think needs to be highlighted was Wynter's interest in diversity and in reflecting that in her resources.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, you mentioned War Room, so I'll bring this up because this is just kind of a little thing in conjunction with the bigger picture of diversity. But when we were on the set of War Room, as he said, Alina, their oldest daughter, is the one who played my daughter in War Room, and there was this huge conversation with the directors and the writers and everything about me and Alina's hair, about what our hair needed to look like in this film. And I was pretty adamant about the fact that I felt like it needed to be our natural African American hair, which is its own, it needs its own, it just is a lot of work. Yes. It's to maintain the continuity over days and everything. And Wynter was like, it was so important to her that we look like black women, who we are on screen. That literally, if you look at the end of War Room, you'll see Wynter Pitts has a credit for hair because she literally took her own hours on set where she was just there to govern her daughter and make sure that everything's good with her child. But she got in there and had to spend hours helping us make sure our hair was taken care of because that was important to her, that our diversity was reflected on film. My point is that when you look at the cover of her magazines, she's got black girls, she's got white girls, she's got Asian girls. She's trying to make sure that everybody is represented.
It's kingdom.
And that it's kingdom. And that whoever you are and whatever your daughters look like, your children are biracial in a sense, that she wants to make sure that they all feel represented and valued, that how they look is significant, that God planned it, that they don't have to fit in with a mold to be pretty, that they can be exactly who they are with their hair texture and their skin color and all of that stuff, and that God celebrates them exactly how they are, and that they should too. And I appreciated that about Wynter, and she invested herself in making sure that was shown in the resources she put together for
it's
young
actually,
girls.
and when I joined this family and this ministry that I've worked in for the last 15 years up until recent, like it's who y'all are. So I just love that we can do that in a very authentic way, like Anthony said. It's just like natural. It's just who we are. It's the air we breathe. It's what we want to do. But yeah, so publishing, continuing the magazine, growing the magazine, but publishing other resources, events, which we plan to do 2 events in 2020. And then also the other thing that Wynter wanted to do was missions trips. Like, she always wanted to take girls on missions trips to expose these girls to a bigger world, to a bigger kingdom that they're a part of, and they're to be investing in and being a part of. So, those are the 3 main things that we will do as a ministry. So it's a growing, kind of expanding thing. And if you're just joining us, sorry, if you're just joining us, go back and watch most of it because we're about to end here. But just want to encourage you guys to be a part of that, to join us on this journey and to join us in this effort. We need your help. We need your support. A lot of you have already been a part in some ways of being subscribers. I've loved seeing like amazing messages just from moms and thanking us for just Wynter's investment in her girls that led to an investment in their girls and just the commitment to it. So really grateful for that.
And where do they do that?
If you go to forgirlslikeyou.com/next chapter, you'll see more about just what the next chapter looks like. There'll also be opportunities to give right there. You can support us both monthly and just with a one-time gift. You can also go just to the forgirlslikeyou.com and you'll see it there as well. But forgirlslikeyou.com/next chapter. So.
Yeah, and again, you're investing in the lives of. There's so many cameras. You're investing in the lives of. You don't have to be a father of a bunch of girls or a mother of a bunch of girls to invest in something like this. And I don't know why. I just feel like I want to say that if you are looking for an opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life, this is something that you can do and we can vouch for. Not just because, again, it's family. It's because we know that our cousin set up something that is very focused about and intentional about changing lives. So again, that's why we are here in support.
And the thing is, she was doing it for her 4 girls. She did not know it would be this. She was just doing something that she wanted to do to make an investment in her 4, and it mushroomed into this. And so you can know that it's soil that is good soil worth sowing a seed into, when it was something a mom produced out of the goodness of her heart for her own
It wasn't a
four
product
children. It
or
wasn't a
gimmick
product.
or
Yeah, there was no publishing company behind it. It wasn't shiny and savvy. It was just, what can I do for my girls to help them to value their significance and to lead them toward the Lord at the same time. And so anyway, I just think we're always trying to find ways to feed into our children good things. And also, as believers, we're looking for opportunities to partner with organizations that are really doing the thing. And we're trying to find how do I know where to sow my seed of prayer, encouragement, but also finances. And we're just saying, this is a doggone good one. This is a doggone good one.
You know, I would just add that if you are a woman, you may know this firsthand. If you're a man, you may have seen this firsthand. But what a woman learns about herself happens so largely in this specific time. When you're an elementary girl, everybody's like, yay, yay. When you're a teenage girl, you've kind of, things have been cemented. But right here in this tween spot is when stuff can attach itself to you that you see in terms of your own identity, how you see the world, your worldview, what you think about God. And this is just a sweet spot that Wynter poured herself into. So if you've been that girl who kind of got a little tilted during that sweet spot, or you're the mother of, or an aunt, or a big sister, a grandmother, and you want to ensure that there's a resource available to the own young girls in your life, your own young girls, or girls of other people you know, this is a way to say, hey, this is a sweet spot, and I want to be a part of making sure that girls during this season get right messaging, get messaging that is based in the Word of God, that what the world is telling them about them, that there's another message. And there are not a lot of messages at all for this age group out there in the world, particularly as it relates to what God would have young women know. And so, so much of what we try to fix when we're adults, we need to look at fixing or supporting when kids are in that season, and this does that. And so this is a really unique opportunity to partner in that way.
Yeah, so Priscilla, if you can really quickly, I know, obviously you're known for your teaching, and like one of the things that Wynter really wanted to infuse into the magazine, we call it kind of edutainment, like edutainment being both educational and entertainment.
That's great.
But truth was always a big deal for her. So if you can just encourage moms, encourage parents, like why truth matters, or just encourage these people that are trying to do these things for their girls while they're in this vulnerable space, like just talk about whatever you would talk about.
Well, I would say it kind of brings up something that I was thinking a few moments ago, and that was just the encouragement to parents that right where you are in the season that you are with young children around you, like you said, just trying to navigate a season where you're unfamiliar and you feel like you're not sure you're doing the right thing or whatever. Just do what you can. Like, what can you do? It doesn't have to look a certain way or be all shiny and savvy and flashy and amazing and worth Instagramming. Just what can you do with the 3 or 4 kids that are sitting around your table? All of those little things matter. Wynter is just a shining example of that she just did what she could with the borrowed computer and to produce information and insight for her own children. And what she wanted to instill in them was an appreciation for and an incorporation of truth in their life, as Jonathan mentioned. And truth is something that is so relative these days in people's mind. It's wavering. Everybody's supposed to have their own standard of truth and be happy and whatever you want to do. If your kid doesn't have an anchor, they're going to be so pushed to the left and to the right. They're going to falter underneath the pressure of culture that is telling them that there's no set standard, that they just need to sort of enjoy their life without having any anchor, any compass at all. But without a compass, a ship is going to sail off course. And so the question is, what creative ways can you use as a parent to put truth into the life of your kid? When we were growing up, it happened a lot around the dinner table. My mom and dad would prioritize dinner. Mom would actually make a meal, a home-cooked meal, which seems like, so difficult now that I'm a mother. But she would do it, and now I know that took intentionality and a lot of dedication to make sure we had a home-cooked meal. We sat around the table 4 or 5 times a week, and then Dad would share truth. He would give us a devotional. And just in case you think we were all cherubs and sat there just like this listening to our father, Dr. Tony Evans, share truth, please get the opposite picture in your mind. Exactly what your kids look like when you're trying to share truth with them is exactly what we look like.
He was dancing.
He
I
was
had an
doing the
attitude.
Michael Jackson.
She was
always had
copying
an
little
attitude.
sarcastic things.
Yeah.
You know, it was just.
It was chaos.
We turned out okay.
We turned out okay.
Well, most of us.
And the nuggets that they shared with us then, even though I'm sure to my parents it looked like it wasn't even registering because it was so much chaos at the table trying to get us to just listen for 2 minutes, those things registered with us. They anchored us. They came back to our mind in our teenage years and our 20s. And even now, there are little things that will bubble up in my mind and heart while I'm speaking. Or if someone asks, like during a question and answer session, sometimes in front of a large group, somebody will ask a question. And I will hear myself responding, not out of something that I can remember studying on my own per se. It's just the nuggets are in there from sitting around the dinner table as a kid and my dad giving us some truth. And so I just want to encourage you to give your kids some anchor of truth, and that's what resources like this will help you do. You stick that magazine in their hand and say, hey, just read this, enjoy it on our car ride to run errands today, and watch how those little seeds just take root and blossom in your child's life.
So, the anchor of our ministry is For Girls Like You magazine that has blossomed into so much more. But the anchor of that magazine is Jesus. And, that's what Wynter was building, was this ministry that would just promoted and pushed forward Jesus. And, more than anything else, like, I love what you said. Like, it was all about intentionality, not perfection. Like, Wynter, perfection was never the top of her mind. It was just intentionality, like just getting it done. And that's the commitment we have. We have a commitment to intentionality in our ministry, and seeking perfection, which would be Jesus. So we just would invite you guys to join us in that journey. If you go to forgirlslikeyou.com/next chapter, we'd love for you to join us. We appreciate your time. I think we were supposed to go like 20 minutes. It feels like it's been 2 hours, but it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys. But appreciate you joining us. Would love for you to join us in this next chapter. Love you guys.